Michael had seen hundreds of cats at the shelter, but this one was different. Hunched in the corner, face oddly flattened, amber eyes watching intently. "Most people don't want him," the staff warned. 3 months later, as Michael drifted to sleep, urgent paw taps jolted him awake. His wife Ashley lay beside him, chest heaving, struggling for air. What this rejected cat did left everyone in disbelief. Loss has a way of leaving holes in our lives that seem impossible to fill. For Ashley, the death of her beloved father left such a void that even the smallest daily tasks felt meaningless. Her husband Michael watched helplessly as grief wrapped around their home like a heavy blanket, dulling the colors of their once vibrant life together. Days blurred into weeks as Ashley withdrew further into herself. The garden she once tended with her father withered. Family photos remained face down on shelves. Even their usually warm home felt cold and empty, despite Michael's best efforts to bring back some normalcy. Seeking any glimmer of hope, they found themselves at the local animal shelter one gray afternoon. The cacophony of meows and eager paws reaching through cage bars filled the narrow hallway, but amid the chorus of cats vying for attention, one remained eerily still. In the last cage, partially hidden in shadow, sat a peculiar cat. His flattened face and unusual features made him stand out, though not in the way most would consider appealing. While other cats called out and pressed against their cages, this one simply watched, his amber eyes following their every move with an unsettling intensity. The shelter staff approached cautiously when they showed interest. "That's Monty," they explained, exchanging worried glances. "He's been here longer than any other cat. Most people consider him unadoptable." They went on to describe how potential adopters would take one look at his face and walk away, some even suggesting he looked sinister. A few families had tried to adopt him before, they revealed, but each time he was returned within days, with complaints about his strange, watchful behavior. But something in those steady amber eyes spoke to Ashley and Michael. Perhaps it was the quiet dignity in his gaze, or maybe the parallel of being overlooked and misunderstood. Whatever the reason, they made their decision despite the staff's concerns and warnings about his previous failed adoptions. The drive home was oddly quiet. Unlike most cats who would cry or hide in their carrier, Monty sat perfectly still, those amber eyes fixed forward as if he knew exactly where he was going. Michael couldn't shake the feeling that this cat understood more than he let on. At each red light, he checked the rearview mirror to find Monty staring back, unblinking. At home, their other cats Mel and Molly ruled different territories of the house. Mel, the three-legged adventurer, claiming the windows and high perches, while Molly, their senior cat, guarded her favorite spots with a graceful aloofness. They expected the usual hissing and territorial disputes that came with introducing a new cat, but Monty defied expectations once again. He emerged from his carrier with deliberate calm, surveying his new domain without a hint of anxiety. No hiding under furniture, no fearful dashing between rooms. He moved through the house as if he had lived there all along, navigating around the other cats with an almost calculated precision. The first night, Michael woke at 3 a.m. to find Monty sitting in the hallway, silhouetted by the nightlight, staring intently at their bedroom door. When Michael approached, the cat didn't move, didn't even blink, just watched. It was the first sign that perhaps the previous adopters' concerns weren't entirely unfounded. What happened next began to raise more questions. Within days, Monty had mapped out every corner of their home, paying particular attention to where important items were kept. He spent hours observing their daily routines from various vantage points: the top of the refrigerator, the back of the couch, the bathroom windowsill. His focus seemed especially keen when they handled medications, keys, or phones. He watched their daily routines with those unblinking eyes, especially Ashley's movements. When she cried in her father's old armchair, Monty would appear silently beside her. But was it comfort he offered, or was he studying her vulnerabilities? Sometimes he would reach out a paw to touch her tears, an action that should have been endearing but somehow felt mysterious. Even more curious was his behavior at night. Michael would wake to find Monty perched at odd hours, staring at them in the darkness. Sometimes he would pace the bedroom, pausing to watch Ashley's breathing with an intensity that made Michael uneasy. What was this strange cat planning? Once, Michael found him pawing through Ashley's purse in the middle of the night, as if searching for something. The other cat's behavior added to the mystery. Mel, usually bold and playful, began following Monty around as if under a spell. Even standoffish Molly yielded her favorite spots without protest. It was as if Monty had some sort of power over them. They would sit together for hours, engaged in silent communication that seemed to exclude the humans entirely. Strange incidents started occurring around the house. Items would move mysteriously overnight. Ashley's inhaler appearing on the nightstand when she was sure she'd left it in the bathroom. Her phone showing up on the kitchen counter when she remembered placing it in the living room. Each time, they'd find Monty nearby, watching with those inscrutable amber eyes. As weeks passed, Monty's focus on Ashley grew stronger. He rarely left her side, always watching, always alert. When she moved between rooms, he followed like a shadow. When she spoke on the phone, his ears would prick forward, catching every word. His devotion seemed almost obsessive. He even started sleeping on her pillow, his face turned toward her, watching until she fell asleep. One afternoon, during a particularly emotional moment when Ashley was going through her father's old photographs, Monty's behavior reached new levels of peculiarity. He began pulling specific photos out of the box with his teeth, arranging them in what appeared to be a deliberate pattern. All of them were pictures where Ashley was smiling, happy. Was he trying to tell her something, or was there a more unsettling explanation? The weather began to change as autumn approached, bringing storms that rattled the windows and sent the other cats hiding under furniture. But not Monty. He seemed more alert during these storms, patrolling the house with increased vigilance, paying special attention to Ashley's breathing, which often grew more labored in the humid air. Then came the incident that changed everything. Late one night, as storm clouds gathered outside, Michael drifted off to sleep with an uneasy feeling. Monty had been particularly restless that evening, pacing more than usual, those amber eyes gleaming in the darkness. Earlier, he'd repeatedly tried to draw their attention to Ashley's inhaler, pawing at it until they moved it to the living room shelf. Suddenly, urgent paw taps jolted Michael awake. Monty stood over him, more agitated than they'd ever seen him. In the dim light, Michael could make out the cat's flattened face inches from his own, those eyes now filled with what looked like desperation. The cat's unusual features, once unsettling, now seemed twisted with urgent concern. Before Michael could process what was happening, he heard it, the sound of labored breathing beside him. Ashley lay there, her chest heaving in an intense asthma attack, struggling to draw air into her lungs. Terror gripped Michael as he realized how serious the situation was. But what happened next left him frozen in disbelief. Without hesitation, Monty darted from the room like a shot. Michael heard rapid movement through the house, the sound of determined paws on hardwood, and moments later, the cat reappeared, carrying Ashley's inhaler in his mouth. The very inhaler they had accidentally left in the living room earlier that evening, the one Monty had seemed so concerned about. Time seemed to stand still as Michael realized the truth. All those nights of watching, all that careful attention to their routines, Monty hadn't been plotting anything sinister. He had been learning, understanding, preparing. This cat, rejected by so many for his unusual appearance, had become their guardian angel. Every mysterious incident, every moved object, had been practiced for a moment just like this. Word of Monty's heroic act spread quickly through social media. The unadoptable cat became a symbol of hope for overlooked shelter animals everywhere. People began sharing stories of their own adopted pets who had surprised them in remarkable ways, proving that every animal deserves a chance to show their true character. In their home, he continued his self-appointed role as Ashley's protector. though now they understood the meaning behind his watchful gaze. They noticed how he would gently headbutt her hand when she'd been sitting too long in grief, encouraging her to move, to engage with life again. He would bring her small gifts, a toy mouse, a leaf from the garden, as if trying to make her smile. The cat that everyone had judged by his appearance had proven that true beauty and heroism comes in the most unexpected packages. Where others saw an unsettling face, Ashley and Michael discovered an extraordinary soul capable of more love and loyalty than they could have imagined. As Ashley's grief gradually softened, she often found herself sharing quiet moments with Monty in her father's old armchair. Perhaps, she thought, her father had somehow guided them to that last cage in the shelter, knowing exactly what and who she needed to heal. The garden began to bloom again under her care, and family photos returned to their proper places, now joined by new ones featuring a certain flat-faced feline hero. The shelter that had housed Monty reported a surge in adoptions of less adoptable cats. People began looking past superficial appearances, inspired by the story of the cat everyone had rejected. Monty's previous failed adoptions now seemed like fate. He had been waiting for the family that truly needed him. And you, would you have given a chance to a cat that everyone else rejected? Sometimes the most remarkable love stories begin with looking past the surface to see the hero within.